Gentlemen, boys, and girls, welcome back to a live episode of the Raw Prospect Podcast. We're recording episode 186 today. We're going through our top 8 power rankings in the NFL. We're going to go through our last of our preseason rankings since we didn't get to those before week one. And then the bulk of the episode will be discussing how we would change them after 1 week of football. But before we can get into all that, make sure you like on the video, leave a like on the video, subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, share it with all your sports fan acquaintances. Yeah, we'll just get right into this thing. Joining me from Houston, Texas, the Stat King himself, Mr. Michael Ween. How you doing?
What's up? How are you? Long day of work, but we're here. It's a Wednesday night, about 8:45 p.m. For the next hour or so, we're going to be revealing the top 8 preseason power rankings that we just did not have the time to get to before the season started. And then we are going to get into our top 8 power rankings after week one, considering a little bit of what we saw in week one, but also kind of what we based the preseason power rankings on, in that, the top teams are the teams that are going to have most likely the best Super Bowl chances. So we'll be kind of projecting. It's really early on in the season, but a lot of this ranking is based on their prospects to win the Super Bowl, or at least get to, the deeper rounds of the playoffs, such as the AFC, NFC championship games. So it's going to be a fun hour. Hopefully we have some fans tune in live here pretty soon, but let's jump right into the preseason power rankings 8-1, as I'm sure people are eager to know who we had ranked where. Number 8, we had the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah. Just based on the upgrades they made at receiver, thought it was pretty easy to put them up at number 8. 7, we had the New York Jets. A lot has changed there, and we'll get to that later. 6, we had the Dallas Cowboys, my Dallas Cowboys. And then at number 5, the Buffalo Bills. Number 4, we had the San Francisco 49ers. 3, we had the Cincinnati Bengals. And then 2 and 1 were the two teams in the Super Bowl last year, the Philadelphia Eagles, and then the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. So now for the fun part, we're going to get into our changes. We both basically, as soon as week one ended, we were like, we didn't get to finish our preview rankings, but now we can reveal them and with a little bit of a twist. So now we're going to have our updated rankings and discuss those. So I'll have you go first. Who did you have at number 8?
I kept the Baltimore Ravens at number 8. Really like Baltimore. Do you want to? There are 2 ways to do this. Do you want to go back and forth 8-8, 7-7, 6-6, or do you just want to reveal our rankings and have a discussion on?
Let's just go back and forth. I think because
I just wanted to put that out there.
There's going to be a lot of overlap anyway, I think.
Yeah. I kept Baltimore at 8. I mean, pretty status quo performance week 1 against the Houston Texans. Really like what they did, bringing in Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator. Love some of the moves they made on the offensive side, drafting Zay Flowers, who you gave your prospect of the week to yesterday. Bringing in Odell Beckham, also signing Nelson Aguilar to go along with Mark Andrews, Devin Duvernay, and Rashad Bateman, who will eventually be back if he's not already.
I think he is, yeah.
He is. Enter Todd Monken, who was, the offensive coordinator for the 2-time defending champion Georgia Bulldogs, has some NFL experience already with Tampa Bay from 2016 to 2018 and Cleveland in 2019. He's praised for his ability to mold his scheme to the personnel that he has. Really like some of the things I saw in week one. I think this will be a more explosive offense given the weapons that they added. And it just seems that Lamar Jackson, now that he has that contract situation sorted out, and he just seems to improve on one area of his game, even if it's like the smallest nuanced thing from a year-to-year basis. I think he could have the type of year that could put him in MVP conversations, and he could elevate Baltimore to being one of the better offenses in football. On the defensive side, I think there are some more question marks, but I am, the more I watch it, I am higher on this defensive front. I love Odafe Owe. Is
Away.
that how you say it? He was a high upside guy coming out of Penn State. Not any career sacks coming out of college. Very raw prospect. I mean, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But coaching staff seem to have tapped into his potential. Love what they did middle of last year, bringing in Roquan Smith, who seems to elevate his partner in crime, Patrick Queen, to be a more complete linebacker on a more consistent basis. I like the pieces they have in the secondary. The big question is who's opposite Marlon Humphrey. But I mean, look, with Matabuke and the other guys that they have up front, Baltimore's always going to have a solid defense, and I think this offense could be, really, really good. Top 10, top 8 in the league. I think they are in the Super Bowl bubble. That's what I would consider top 8 teams in the league. It's about 1/4 of the league, I think, every year that has a chance to actually go win a Super Bowl. And I think Baltimore's solidly right now in that group.
Yeah. I think the interesting part about their pass rush is David Ojabo. He's the guy that I've had my eye on, simply because last year he missed the entire rookie season. His entire rookie season with his Achilles injury that he suffered during the draft process. But before that Achilles injury, he was looking to be a top 15-ish pick in the 2022 draft. So he had 2 sacks, I believe it was, on Sunday. So had a really good opening performance. And I'm definitely going to have my eye on him because he's going to be a big part in whether this ceiling is going to be high for this Baltimore Ravens team. For me, I made a slight change. I did bump the Baltimore Ravens out, and y'all may not like the team that I ended up switching them with, but I did go with the Cleveland Browns, making a big jump. I think what we saw in week one confirmed everything that I had been saying in my preview rankings, which is that this defense is going to be incredible and that Deshaun Watson potentially doesn't even have to play well. He just has to not mess things up. And that's exactly how it went on Sunday. I think this defense is top 5 in football. There's a lot of good defenses this year, but this one, man, they have depth at pass rush now, and they're finally able to stop the run with the addition of Dalvin Tomlinson. I was just really impressed with how things came together defensively.
Yeah. Now it is 1 week, but look, I said this yesterday on our reaction podcast. That defense is going to be much improved. I think we didn't talk enough about Jim Schwartz being hired as defensive coordinator. Right. That's one of the more underrated moves, I think, of the offseason when it comes to a coaching standpoint. And then we've talked, I think, countless times now about Deshaun Watson. And if he can have a top 10 quarterback type of year, which is totally possible, then the sky is really the limit for a Cleveland Browns team that still has a solid offensive line, can run the football, be physical on both sides of the ball, win the line of scrimmage, and already had, last year a really, really good passing defense. So I love the Browns. I didn't have them in my rankings. I need to see a little more.
That's fair.
But I can totally see where you're coming from there. Okay, my number 7, I pushed the Miami Dolphins into my rankings at number 7. What they did on Sunday looked like a top 3, top 4 dynamic offense in football with the creative designs by Mike McDaniels, which I expect to continue to see, and their calling card, the amount of speed that they present on offense, the amount of different looks and different things that they run on offense. If Tua plays anything close to that and can just stay upright, I mean, he led the NFL in passer rating last year, 105.5, led the NFL in yards per pass attempt at 8.9 yards per pass attempt, 25 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. I mean, that was really solid when he was on the field, and the Dolphins won games when he was on the field. I believe they were like, I don't know, 8-0 in his first 8 starts or something crazy like that last year. Now that Aaron Rodgers goes down, and the Jets still, I think, have a solid team that can still compete. We'll see what they continue to look like at the quarterback spot, but they have a good enough defense, and I think good enough pieces surrounding that defense, surrounding their quarterback on the offensive side. Well, there are some questions on the offensive line, but given that Aaron Rodgers goes down, and I haven't necessarily loved the way that Buffalo has looked going all the way back to middle of last year. I mean, I like the Dolphins' chances even a little more now than I did maybe a week ago in this division. And I think that sets up well when we talk about their Super Bowl chances. And I think this defense with Vic Fangio, who was another great hire, even though they gave up 34, what was it? Was it 34 or 31 on Sunday? It was
36-34, I believe.
Yeah.
I think they gave up 34, right?
It was 37, 34, something along those lines. I mean, the Chargers, they're going to put up points on a lot of good defenses this year. I'm not too concerned about that. I like their defense. I think it's going to be a really good defense. So I'm hesitant to go any higher, but I do think the Dolphins, I mean, could beat really any of the teams above them right now in these power rankings on any given day.
Yeah, I agree. I did end up bumping the Dolphins into the list as well, but I do have them a little bit later on. At 7, I have the Buffalo Bills. There are some positives that they can take away from Monday night, believe it or not. They kind of let the Jets stay in it, and that's really what ended up biting them in the butt later on in the game. But the defense played solid. Outside of a few explosive runs from Breece Hall, there wasn't really much to speak of in the run game for the Jets. And if Garrett Wilson doesn't make that spectacular catch on a pretty good defensive effort from Tre'Davious White, to be fair, then we're looking at a completely different picture here, a completely different outlook. I still trust Josh Allen for the most part. I think that just comes with the territory. It's a lot of variance with him, I think with all of the explosive plays that he's able to make, you're willing to live with that. I guess the reason I have them at 7 is I don't know when Von Miller will be back, and when he does get back, how good will he be? Greg Rousseau did look good. Leonard Floyd did look solid. But at the end of the day, I think if this team is to win a Super Bowl this year, it's going to be a lot of Von Miller making a huge impact. So until he comes back, I'm just going to have to see a little bit more from those edge rush guys.
Fair enough. I had Buffalo at 6. I think that's one spot lower than we had him originally.
Mm-hmm.
You had him 2 spots lower. Look, I mean, last year they really struggled with turning the ball over. Their offense had 27 turnovers, second most in the NFL. Although Allen is a dominant force, and he can put that team on his back whenever he wants to. And I still believe in Josh Allen. Like, I'm not out on Josh Allen by any stretch of the imagination. Um, like this issue that's now we've seen dating all the way back to middle of last year ish to right now. He's going to have to clean that up. It can't be every game that you're putting the ball in harm's way this much and putting, this much stress on your defense. We'll see when Von Miller comes back. I do think they have a little bit of wiggle room here early. It is September. We've seen teams before get through, a mediocre September and end up at the end of the year playing their best football, right? You don't have to be playing your best football right now to go win a Super Bowl. And I think that should be Buffalo's goal. I still love Stephon Diggs. I mean, that connection still looked really, really potent on Monday night. Didn't love the fact that they ended up losing that game. But you're right. I mean, the pass rush, we still need to see something. Still want to see how this offensive line looks moving forward. For years now, they've struggled to generate a running game outside of Josh Allen, a consistent running game outside of what Josh Allen provides. That I think a lot of that falls on the offensive line. Did like that they went out and signed Connor McGovern, I think, which should help. I think he's an upgrade at that left guard position. But we'll see what that – they also drafted the guy out of Florida, right? Osiris Torrance, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I got to watch their offensive line more closely. But, yeah, I mean, there are concerns, but there's still – a lot of football, a lot of football left. Don't put too much stock into one game. Once they get Von Miller back, I think you see Buffalo probably right back where they were, as long as Josh Allen keeps the ball out of harm's way.
Right. And the last thing I'll say about Buffalo before I move on to my sixth team is I think a lot falls on the shoulders of that Josh Allen Stephon Diggs connection. And in my opinion, that's a little bit too much on the shoulders of that connection. If you look back to that team that was in the divisional round and had that crazy game against the Kansas City Chiefs, that team also had Emmanuel Sanders. That team was able to spread the ball around a little bit more because they had 4 good weapons that Josh Allen trusted rather than just, I would say, 2.5 at the moment, because I don't know where Gabriel Davis stands right now. But regardless, I think moving forward, there's still reason to believe in the Bills. At number 6, I had the Miami Dolphins, and a lot of that was simply because if I were to pick who would win the division right now, I would pick them. And early, like before the season started, I was gonna pick the Jets, but that's obviously um, off the table a little bit now that Aaron Rodgers is out for the year. I think Miami. The one concern from that Week 1 game was they gave up 234 yards on the ground, and historically, that Chargers team is not a good running team. Some of that could be just Kellen Moore trying to have a little bit more of a committee type of backfield like they had in Dallas. And some of it, I think, might just be Week 1 in a Vic Fangio style defense. They just weren't quite as keyed in to their run fits as they would be in, say, a Week 10, Week 11 further down the line. So I think it's something to watch for, but I'm not overly concerned about their run defense. And you already talked about their offense. I'm not going to rehash what you've already said. Their offense looks amazing, and it's not matchup dependent anymore. It just seems like an offense that, in order to slow them down, you're going to have to create a insane defensive game plan, and it's just extremely fun to watch, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, my number 5, I kept the Cowboys at 5. I thought about moving them up, but I kept them at 5. I think they're a solid top 5 team right now in the NFL. With what that defense is, I mean, there's really no need to waste time and rehash what we talked about yesterday and what we saw on Sunday, what that defense did. I don't think that would be an every week thing, but I mean, that defense gives you a chance to win every game, and they're going to have more games like that. It might not shut out every team, but they're going to be all over the place. They're going to be the ball hawking defense. They're going to be physical. They're going to overwhelm you at the line of scrimmage with Micah Parsons and all the guys that you know. Obviously, I like the addition of Mozzie Smith. I think that'll help them in the running game. Love their secondary, adding Stephon Gilmore, who already has a couple picks, I believe. Trayvon Diggs, we know, is an excellent playmaker. And then offensively, you do lose Dalton Schultz, but CeeDee Lamb will be a vocal point. I love Tony Pollard running the ball. I liked what you saw from offensive line at points in times on Sunday night. But really, for me, for the Cowboys, they're going to be there all year. They're going to win a lot of games. They might even win their division. Who knows? For me, it comes down to the playoffs.
Right.
Now it's about, I think, for Dallas, what do you do in January?
Yep.
Hopefully, you don't get matched up with San Francisco again. Hopefully. But maybe if you do, maybe you're better equipped this time to match up with them. Who knows? That's a long way down the road. But for me, it's all about, I mean, Dallas probably is going to win 10, 11, 12 games. It's all about what they do come December and January. And I think they'll be right around this ranking for much of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I had the Cowboys at 5 as well. I just didn't really see much of a reason to move them up or down just because the top 3 in the NFC seems pretty set. And until Dallas, say on week 5 against the 49ers, beats one of those teams, I just don't see a reason to move them above them. So, and then even if they did beat them in week 5, I still would want to see them do it in the playoffs because that's always been the hurdle for this team. There's really no excuse anymore. This team is there. And in my opinion, this team is deeper than the 49ers. The 49ers had to get rid of a lot of depth with this Christian McCaffrey trade and paying him $16 million and bringing in Javon Hargrave. They had to get rid of a lot of depth at key positions and particularly on offensive line as well. So I think the Cowboys are deeper roster-wise and may even be better roster-wise depending on what Dak does. But until we see it, you can't move them above.
Right. I agree. Okay. So we're through 4 teams. We're through half the list. Let's get to the second half of the list in our top 4. Thank you to the one viewer who is in the stream right now. Leave your comment, leave your opinion, maybe even leave your rankings. Ask us a question, something. Leave a like on the video as well. Subscribe to the channel. Number 4, I did a little bit of flip-flopping in my top 4, but the teams are the same as preseason. Week 1 did nothing to dissuade me. Although a couple of these teams did lose, nothing was that strong that it dissuaded me from, making too many changes. But I do have a couple changes I think you'll find interesting. I bumped Cincinnati down to number 4 after the week 1 game. Now Cincinnati, 2 straight AFC championships, a Super Bowl appearance. They almost won that damn thing. If a couple plays had gone their way, they probably would have. Still love the offense. I think it's going to be explosive. They need to run the ball consistently with Joe Mixon. I just think And I like their defense as well. I mean, we talk about DJ Reader, the guys they have on that defense. I'm really excited to watch Dax Hill at
Yep.
safety position. Um, I mean, I love their defense. I love their roster. And obviously, we know once Joe Burrow knocks some of the rust off coming back from his injury, as his training camp was severely cut short, uh, and this offense finds sunnier days, I do believe they are going to be a really good football team. But division is a gauntlet. The AFC is a gauntlet. And I mean, we'll see. I'm really projecting out a little bit based on what I saw in week one and where we had them in the preseason and their offseason moves. Week one, it's hard to tell and draw conclusions. But I didn't love, that performance on Sunday, but I still believe in Cincinnati. And as I said, I mean, they could beat any of these other teams that are ranked above them. They've already proven that. I just bumped them down a little bit.
Yeah. I have a feeling we're gonna have this top four probably the exact same. We're probably on the same wavelength here. I had the Cincinnati Bengals at 4 as well. Um, One thing that I would say is this offense, the talent is incredible, but it continues to be lacking in a little bit of creativity. Um, you don't want to be too hard on Zach Taylor, given the success that he's had. But at the same time, you look at an offense like Miami, you look at an offense like San Francisco, and it's not the same level of innovation and, high level play design. So that's a question there. They've done a lot with um, you know, not having creativity in the past, of course. So maybe that's overreaction, but I feel like at some point you gotta implement a little of that. So for now, Cincinnati's at 4. They're gonna bounce back here. I'm not concerned in the slightest. Joe Burrow is still Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase is still Jamar Chase. So at
Right.
the end of the day, it's
And
it's
they
gonna
will
be a top 5 offense in football, most likely.
they will get other guys. They'll get T. Higgins involved.
Right.
They'll get their tight end. Who's their tight end now?
Irv Smith.
Yeah, they'll get him involved. They'll run the football. You look at their schedule. They do host Baltimore this week, but then it eases up a little bit before their bye week. Before coming out of their bye week, they have to go at San Francisco and host Buffalo, and then go at Baltimore, host Pittsburgh, and then go at Jacksonville, and then host Indianapolis and Minnesota, then go at Pittsburgh, at Kansas City, and Cleveland. It is hell after their bye week, but there's nothing that Cincinnati hasn't proven they can't handle. And I expect they're going to be one of the teams that's there in the end.
Yep.
If no major injuries or nothing crazy happens, right? So okay. I still have San Francisco at 3. I have San Francisco at 3. I bumped them above Cincinnati based on the performances from Sunday. I said this yesterday on our podcast, and you should go check that out. It was our week 1 reaction. A new segment that we debuted yesterday. Really, really fun. We'll be doing it every week up until the playoffs start and when the playoffs start. I think you can make the argument that the quartet of George Kittle, when he's healthy, of course, Tebow Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and Brandon Ayuk, who looks like he's going to break out. I know it's only one game, but I mean, I think he's going to be a breakout player this year. That quartet of offensive weapons around Brock Purdy, you can make the argument that's top to bottom, if not the best in the league, it's like top 2 or 3 best in the league. They have an excellent roster. DeMeco Ryans left to take the Houston job, but that defense didn't doesn't seem to skip one beat. I think they probably have the best middle linebacker in the league. You can make the argument they have the best pass rusher in the league. I like their secondary. My one question with San Francisco coming into the season, actually, I had a couple. The health of Brock Purdy and that elbow, and then the offensive line. There are a couple spots on that offensive line I am concerned about, especially the right tackle position. TJ Watt absolutely just, God, he had a field day with their right tackle on Sunday. That was about the only bright spot for Pittsburgh. But otherwise, Kyle Shanahan, one of the best coaches in the league, with what this team has proven year in, year out, being in the NFC Championship game, being there in the end. I think you could even make the argument, if you wanted to, that they're better than Philadelphia, but I'm not going to give them that yet. So we'll see, but I love San Francisco. Absolutely love San Francisco.
Yeah, I had the same. I had San Francisco at 3 as well, and I I was really tempted to move them ahead of Philly.
I was too.
But yeah, and I think the only reason I didn't was one, the right tackle spot, and two, I think depth might play a factor as well. As I said earlier, um, obviously injuries are a part of the game, and you hope that you kind of get lucky in that regard. But at the same time, you got to have quality depth, and I don't know where the 49ers stand on that front. And I feel a little bit more confident in the Eagles side of things. And beyond that, I think I agree with you on Brandon Ayuk. I think as a number one, like traditional wide receiver, I think he's their quote unquote X receiver, and probably right there with T. Higgins as like a top level threat on the outside. And people forget he had over 1,000 yards last year, and was really important to that offense for a lot of the year. He has really good chemistry with Brock Purdy. I think Brandon Ayuk is going to break out, and pretty soon he's going to be up there in consideration with some of the top receivers in football.
Yeah, he's incredible. He made a Hall of Fame corner look absolutely silly.
Yeah,
on Sunday afternoon in Pittsburgh, Patrick Peterson. That was impressive. I was blown away. I knew he was good. I knew he was. In fact, I knew he was really good. But that looked like top 10 receiver. I mean, he owned it.
yeah, he looked like Devontae Adams out there with that
Yeah,
with the dreads. Yeah,
absolutely. So, and then you add in Christian McCaffrey, who when he's healthy, just I mean he. If it wasn't for quarterbacks, if quarterbacks did not exist, Christian McCaffrey would have like a real solid argument right now to like just give the MVP to that guy. If he plays a
yeah,
full 16 games with the amount that he's going to touch the ball, just give him the MVP. I mean,
honestly, yeah,
we know there's Justin Jefferson that exists. We know there's some other really, really great players, but man, he's really good. They just have a bunch of players on that offense that if you're not ready to play, that team will make you look silly. They'll embarrass you. So, yeah, really high on San Francisco. I had Philly at number 2. Did you?
yep.
Okay, let's have a conversation about the Eagles. We don't need to go necessarily back and forth now since there's some overlap here. I mean, let's just start here. Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Holy cow. What the Eagles just continue to find guys. And the strategy, guess what? The strategy of drafting guys from Georgia, I think, is working. They'll continue to do it until it's proven that it doesn't work anymore. What they've built on both sides of the line of scrimmage with Jalen Hurts, who's obviously now elite threat both with his arm and his legs, with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, all the weapons that they have, the running backs they brought in, their defense, although their team's probably not quite as deep as it was last year, but that's, I think, the nature of getting to a Super Bowl and almost winning it. It happens to almost every team that gets there. You can't pay everybody once you get to a certain point, but there's still, until proven otherwise, until maybe the Cowboys assert themselves or a little more, or we see the Bengals get back to being really elite, and maybe the Eagles take a step back the next couple of weeks. I think they'll stick around at least in the top 3 of our power rankings until we see otherwise. There's no reason to think right now that they're not a top 2 team in football. They've done nothing else to dissuade us. They played a really good team, I think, on Sunday.
Yeah, I
So
think so too. My one gripe on the Eagles on Sunday was I still have questions about them losing Shane Steichen, and especially with some of the play calling I saw in Indy Sunday as well. It looked like maybe he was the mastermind behind
yeah,
the I don't know what analogy to use there, but you get the point. Um, he looked like a key guy behind this thing.
yeah,
I think ultimately they're going to figure it out, but we've seen in the past, especially with a team like the Bills, losing an offensive coordinator sometimes is kind of hard to overcome, and let alone losing both coordinators and Vic Fangio. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. Um, the reason I still have them at number 2, though, is just, I mean, this team is just ridiculous. It just is, man. I don't know what else to say. Like, you mentioned Jalen Carter, but it wasn't even just him. It was Nolan Smith as well, another first round pick out of Georgia that was just terrorizing the Patriots. I mean, to be fair, the Patriots did have like backups in at both guard spots, but still, man, it was just it was brutal to watch if you were a Patriots fan, I'm sure.
yeah. And they're not going to slow down. They're going to keep doing what the Eagles have done. They know who they are. Jalen Hurts knows who he is. Um, it's hard to stop AJ Brown, much less when you pair him with Devontae Smith. Um, they're until we see otherwise. Once again, they're top 2 and number 1, despite losing to the Detroit Lions on the opening night of the season, Thursday night. They're number 1 still. They were missing Travis Kelce, and they clearly missed his presence a little bit. And they were also missing one of the better football players in the NFL, in Chris Jones. So if Kadarius Toney, and I'm not trying to have anyone catch any strays here on a Wednesday night, but if he catches a couple footballs, I think that game may have turned out a little bit differently.
Well, I don't think he would catch the stray anyway. I think he would drop it.
Well, maybe so, but not to take any shots at him, but I mean, those are footballs you got to catch.
Yeah.
Detroit made the plays that they needed to win that game, and to give them credit, I mean, that drive in the fourth quarter that they had, where they took, I don't know, what was it, 8-ish minutes off the 7-8-ish minutes off the clock, went down, scored a touchdown. That was impressive. I did not think
Yeah.
that. I knew the Lions were going to be good. I thought they would be a good football team, but I didn't know. People had questions about whether or not they were ready for that in Arrowhead. Possibly the hardest place to play right now in the entire league, and definitely one of the loudest. That I think, they have Patrick Mahomes. That's all I'm going to say. They still have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they get Travis Kelce and Chris Jones back, I expect to see the Kansas City Chiefs that we've seen the past 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, if you really think about it, you didn't have Travis Kelce, and you still, after, you know, on the variance of things, even with, all of the miscues at the receiver spot on Thursday, even with all of that, they everybody on that wide receiver core probably played on the bottom end of their like variance, right? And even with that, they only lost by 1 point. And if it wasn't for, if they make one more catch, they win that game. Like even the 4th and 25, that hit Sky Moore in the hands. It was, I mean,
Yeah.
if Sky Moore catches that, we're talking about, oh wow, Patrick Mahomes did it again, another ridiculous play on 4th and 25. I mean, you just can't move this team down. Also, the defense looked pretty solid.
It did.
Um,
It actually did.
Trent McDuffie, I really love Trent McDuffie coming out in the draft. He looked really, really good. Travarius Ward is still there, making plays. I don't know, man. I think there's reason to believe that this defense could be better than last year, and you're adding in Chris Jones and you're getting back Travis Kelce. So what more can you really say?
Yeah. You have Patrick Mahomes. I love their two young linebackers, Nick Bolton and Willie Gay.
Yep.
When they get Chris Jones back and when they get Travis Kelce back, two of the top three players on that team, like that's a big deal, I think. I think you can make, I mean, in my opinion, at least, they're going to be the same old Chiefs, right? I mean,
Yep.
what's all that different? They still have Andy Reid, and as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are there and healthy, they're probably not going to go much of anywhere outside of number one unless they have a little bit of a skid. So I have Kansas City. So we have people now tuned in case they missed it. Let's go back through our rankings. Each of our lists. So for me, I had, and this is after week one. So I had Baltimore 8, I had Miami 7, Buffalo 6, Dallas 5, Cincinnati 4, San Francisco 3, Philadelphia 2, and Kansas City 1.
All right. For me, I had the Cleveland Browns at 8, Bills at 7, Dolphins at 6, Cowboys at 5, Bengals at 4, Eagles at, oh no, 49ers at 3, Eagles at 2, Chiefs at 1. But we still, we got this all done in about 40 minutes. So I guess since we have some people here live, if you have any questions about like the NFL or anything, just like put something in the live chat and we'll just have a discussion about it. There also was one other thing that I think would be a fun conversation. I think maybe a conversation around the Jets and possible trade targets or something of that nature could be
Yeah.
pretty fun.
Yeah, the Jets were a team we had originally slotted in at number 7 in our
Right.
preseason rankings. Obviously, they lose Aaron Rodgers. That's top story in sports right now outside of Deion Sanders in Colorado. So, yeah, absolutely. Where are we going? Are we going quarterback? What do you think the Jets – where do the Jets look now? Let's start with that.
Well, I think it comes down to what their preference is between what their options are, Zach Wilson, or waiting and taking someone in the draft in round 1, because they keep their first round pick now that Aaron Rodgers is going to miss the entire season. That pick is going to be a second round pick now. So depending on where they draft, and this is a historically deep QB class, I mean, I could see them drafting a QB, or if they did want to make a move and get someone, in terms of guys I think would be a better option than Zach Wilson. It's a really limited group, but Jacoby Brissett was someone that popped into my head. He filled in for the Browns last year. He played decent, and with how good the Jets defense is, I mean,
Yep.
that could be an okay fit there. Um, Another guy that popped into my head was maybe um, Carson Wentz, but at the same time, like, are you really gonna go out and get Carson Wentz rather than just stick with Zach Wilson? So it's a really weird balance here. I think most likely they're just gonna stick with Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I would most likely stick with it. God, I can't speak now. I'd stick with Zach Wilson. Uh, Look, this Jets team, despite all the things you can criticize Zach Wilson for
Right.
on the football field, won 7 games last year, um, and we're close to winning 8, 9 games. If a couple games go, the opposite, and you can say that about pretty much any team, but I mean, it stands as is that this team won 7 games last year, and look, they found a way to win against a top 8 team in football, according to both of us at least, on Monday night, on a night where it could have very easily gotten, I think, ugly pretty fast.
Yeah.
When Aaron Rodgers went out and the wind was knocked out of that stadium, MetLife. But defense, I think, is top caliber, top 5 or 6 in football. Quinn Williams is an absolute game wrecker. I mean, I really never seen anything like it outside of a couple guys. Aaron Donald. He's considering how young he is, he's got a bright future and career ahead of him. Love Sauce Gardner. Love their defense. They're watching Hard Knocks. And I know Hard Knocks is Hard Knocks. I've grown on Robert Saleh as a head coach. I really like him. You can nitpick some things. I don't love, defensive coaches with mediocre, limited quarterbacks, if that. I mean, I don't know if you can even call Zach Wilson that at this point. You do have a ceiling, I think, but that defense is awesome. And if this goes south, you ultimately get your pick of the litter, pretty much, from one of the deepest quarterback drafts that we've seen. I'm not going to go as far as to say it's one of the deepest quarterback drafts ever, but it's hard not to believe that it's not, right? I mean, you go up and down. I mean, I can name 10 guys right now
Yeah.
that are going to be drafted, and that doesn't even include maybe a guy or two that, just comes out of nowhere this year in college football. So it's really deep. And for now, I'd stick with Zach Wilson. If you're going to do anything, don't do anything too crazy. Maybe go Jacoby Brissett, but I wouldn't go for anything much crazier than that.
Yeah. Do you think the Titans would be open to trading Ryan Tannehill? I don't think they would, but
Hmm.
he popped into my head, and then Jameis Winston also.
I just not right now. Not right now, right?
Mhm.
When they still
Maybe
have
trade deadline if things go south, of
when
course.
they still have everything in front of them. Maybe at the trade deadline. But a couple questions I need to know the answers to. What is Tannehill's contract?
Right.
Because I think there's still the possibility that Aaron Rodgers comes back next year.
Right.
And then, I don't know. I personally, I just wait until the draft and get your higher upside guy. But I mean, it's fun to think about, right? What if, the Jets surprise some people, say they're 4-2 after 6 weeks. They want to go for it, try to, do as much as they can to contend in the AFC to a certain extent, right? Maybe that happens, but I don't know. I think right now you stick with Zach Wilson, let it play out, see how it goes, and then I mean, if you're going to be bad, if it's going to go south, this is one of the years that isn't so bad to go in that direction.
Yeah, a super long shot. I just think it would be hilarious if like Tom Brady just said, "Screw it, I'm gonna go to the team that Bill Belichick hates the most and unretire." No, that would never happen. But it's a thought that's popped into my head. We're just kind of thinking out loud here. Like we said before, the two of you that are still here, thanks for being here. But if you have any like anything you'd like to see us discuss here in these last like 5 minutes we're live here, go ahead and drop something in the chat, and then we'll give our thoughts on it. um was there any other subject that you thought we didn't really touch on yesterday and you might want to talk about? The only one I can really think of is maybe the conversation around Justin Fields.
Yeah, maybe. I think with the last 5 minutes, let's talk about tomorrow's game.
Okay, yeah.
Since we're doing it live, we can do a little preview here of Thursday Night Football. It's, I think, the Vikings and the Eagles, right?
Yep. In Philly.
In Philly.
Kenneth Gainwell, the Eagles' leading rusher from Sunday, isn't going to play. It looks like. Well, he's still questionable. So it looks like it'll be Rashad Penny, Boston Scott, and DeAndre Swift as their three backs, most likely.
Okay. Well, what are you watching for? Obviously, Minnesota's looking to rebound off a really tough loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's on a short week, going to Philadelphia. Not going to be easy whatsoever. What are you watching for, and who would you pick?
Well, one of the main things is, can Minnesota pass protect? That's first and foremost. Can they pass protect? Because that Eagles front, that's going to be the main question you ask no matter who the Eagles are playing, especially for the Vikings, who at the guard spot probably have one of the biggest liabilities in football at the moment. So that'll be an interesting point. And then number two, can they have some guys they can rely on outside of Justin Jefferson? Jordan Addison had moments. TJ Hawkins had his moments. But I think one of the key things they did in the offseason was they tried to add more to that receiving core. And this is the game where I think it's got to come into fruition, because the Eagles are going to do everything to take away Justin Jefferson, and they have the personnel to do it. So Kirk's going to have to find somebody else to rely on, I think, a little bit. And if they can't, then it might get ugly.
Yeah. On a short week, on the road, going to Philly, you have a spot on your offensive line that's a severe weakness right now, with a defense that, is it's really tough to overcome the situation that I think Minnesota is facing right now on a short week going to Philly after that loss. There's not a whole lot of time to prepare. I just don't feel great about what tomorrow holds for Minnesota, but maybe, just maybe, this is the NFL. I think Kirk Cousins will clean up some of the things that happened week one. Right. As you said, Philly's going to do everything in their power to take away Justin Jefferson. So you're going to need, a KJ Osborne. You're going to need Jordan Addison. But I think Philly ultimately will probably win both sides of the line of scrimmage with that offensive line and their defensive line. And I don't think that bodes particularly well for Minnesota. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't really dug much into uh, this game yet, but I'm really excited to watch it. I'm hoping for a close game. I'm hoping this is more of what we get on Thursday Night Football this year. So, yeah. Anything else? Parting shots?
Um, my one parting shot is that I believe in my Cowboys this year. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and I'm ready to get hurt again. I guess is the main thing. Hopefully I don't, but I'm ready to if that's what it ends up being.
Yeah. In the state of Texas, you got Longhorn fans drinking a bunch of burnt orange Kool-Aid, ready to potential. I don't think it's heading this way, but maybe they get hurt again. And then you have the Dallas Cowboys now, who are maybe joining that conversation where their fans are drinking some Kool-Aid and hoping not to be fooled again. But as I said earlier, another live show coming up. Maybe, just maybe, since we finished this earlier than I thought, I can get someone to hop on with me for like 30 minutes talking Texas Bama and what that game meant on Wednesday, as we still really haven't revealed our full thoughts from that game. And then talk a little A&M Miami. Maybe I can get Emmy to hop on with me real fast, and we'll do a condensed version of Dit Hole as we have probably a bigger episode of Dit Hole tomorrow with a special guest, actually. Do you want to introduce what you know about our special guest tomorrow?
Yeah. So as I revealed last week, I'm a brand ambassador for an app called Live Take now. So um, basically, I went on there just asking some people like, "Would you want to come on the podcast?" And this guy in particular, he's a SEC fan, LSU fan as well. So big college football guy, and we're gonna discuss some college football hot takes, buy and sell. That's the main premise of the episode tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll also be doing uh, top two teams in each conference, which I think will be fun. So that will be the bulk of tomorrow. But there is another live show here that will get started probably less than 20 minutes after we sign off here from our NFL Power Rankings. So go check out our content from yesterday. Go check out our preseason content, which still holds mostly relevant as of right now. Our Power Rankings 20 through, I guess it would be 9. And then, of course, we did our Power Rankings tonight. You can see 8 through 1 that we originally had from the preseason that we didn't get to at the very outset of this episode. When you go rewatch it, you can see where we had those teams ranked. And then, of course, we gave you our list after week 1. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Hopefully, y'all will be back for Dit Hole coming up here in about 15, 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes at the most. And we will see you next week for NFL reactions after week 2. Enjoy the weekend of football and make sure you tune in to Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. But for now, just like shoot, I don't want to take any shots at just like A&M's chances of living up to the hype, whatever hype there may have been. We are gone. Peace
Peace
out.
out.